We hope you enjoy this podcast. All our conversations are inspired by films we have selected to appear on sdg.vision. So go and take a look and be inspired by people and organisations who are making valuable contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals and making our world a better place for everybody to live. Now, sit back, enjoy, be inspired, and afterwards, go and take action. It's the SDG Vision podcast. Welcome to everybody joining us, and a particularly warm welcome to Karen Worth and Ferzana Shan from Salaam Shalom Kitchen. Hello.
Hi.
Hello there. Now, Karen and Ferzana are bunched quite close together because they're sharing one screen. So if you can see them fidgeting occasionally, don't worry about that. And thank you for joining us in the evening as well. Both Karen and Ferzana are co-chairs of Salaam Shalom Kitchen, and it's a voluntary role. So we really appreciate you finding time in your busy schedules. So that's terrific. And whereabouts are you joining us from?
Nottingham.
Right, lovely. So that's, if I'm not mistaken, for those people who are not from Great Britain, it's in the Midlands, in the middle of Great Britain. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Good. Bang in the middle, really.
Good. I'm glad I haven't offended you. Good. Excellent. Well, first of all, I suppose that what does a Salaam Shalom Kitchen do, and why does it do it?
Yeah, so we're a project that basically we've been running for nearly 10 years now. But it's we provide hot food once a week and groceries to people in need in a inner city deprived area of called Hyson Green in Nottingham. It's developed over the 10 years, but that's essentially what we do. The idea is to, try and reduce poverty, but also social isolation and loneliness, because we provide the food in a cafe-style environment. People come in and they sit and they eat and they chat and meet people, and then they also are able to take food away. So some people just come, take their food and go. Other people stay and eat, and then they might take some food home for another night as well. So that's basically what the project does. It operates on many different levels, but that's our main purpose.
Well, hopefully we'll get into some of those different levels and talk about those, because like everything in life, nothing is as simple as straightforward as we'd like to think it is. Is poverty a big problem in Nottingham, or where you're operating in Nottingham? Can you give us an idea as to what the need is that you're serving?
Well, unfortunately, it's become a growing need. So at the start, from what I recall, we were servicing predominantly white men, homeless, rough sleeping, and now, having gone through the pandemic and all those kind of issues, there's a lot more food poverty, and the cost of living crisis means that there's a lot more people who are on the lower income brackets, lots of different communities, a lot more women. So the need is greater and more in far more communities than what was originally the case.
Yeah, we have families with children coming, people who are working but actually struggling to make ends meet. But I would say that poverty is a problem, across the country now, which is very sad. I think it's hugely shameful that in a rich country like the UK, we are having to have food banks and food projects like ours. And the need is definitely growing. In the early days, we used to have maybe 30 to 40 people come through our door. Now we have around about 100, and we provide 150 meals every week, which people do take away as well, as I said.
Yeah. And you said it was set up about 10 years ago. How was it set up exactly?
So, and I'd like to do this justice now. So it was set up between two friends. Sajid Mohammed, so he's the current CEO of HIMA, it's the largest independent food bank in Nottingham, and Rabbi Tanya. Can you help out with the surname?
Saknovich.
There we go. And she was rabbi at that time of the Nottingham Liberal Synagogue. So they set that up, for various reasons. One was to bring two communities together who suffer a lot of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and to look at a joint project where they're actually helping the community, and it's an objective which is very dear and very close to both communities, religions, cultures, and do something positive, and also to look at changing the narrative, a very strong narrative, worldwide, but particularly in England, around this perception of both communities and their relationships.
Yeah, I mean, we very much wanted to bring people together, and that, there's nothing better than sitting and chopping vegetables and providing food and doing some, positive action together to create friendships and bonds. And that certainly has been the case over the time. Obviously, we bring all kinds of people together. Our volunteers come from all sorts of communities, which we could talk about a little bit more about later. But, we've always been very clear that Salaam Shalom Kitchen is a Jewish Muslim-led organisation, but everybody is welcome to come to eat and also to volunteer. And,
okay, so
it's a very powerful message that we are sort of sending, that Jews and Muslims, of course, we work together. We often talk about our communities and our people as being cousins of each other, which absolutely, originally in the Bible, that is exactly what we were. But, there are so many similarities between our communities. And as has been said in many other situations, there is more that we have in common than that which divides us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason we asked you to come on was because we saw one of your films on YouTube, which was Beliefs and Community Action, Salaam Shalom Kitchen. And it was rather lovely because they had children, I think it's from Robert Mellor's Primary Academy in Nottingham, asking the questions, which we thought was really delightful. And one of the questions was, has there ever been any problems between the Jewish and Muslim people that are working and helping out at Salaam Shalom Kitchen? Has there been? For those who haven't seen that film.
So I think in general, I would say, no. However, in the last year, it's been a very, very difficult time for both communities. And we've had things that we've had to deal with and we've had to face together and separately and, and work through. And that's not always easy. Interfaith work and intercommunity work is not always easy. People come from different places and with different thoughts about things. But actually, we've always stayed very clear that our prime function is to keep our organisation going and to remain committed to each other and our relationships and our project, really.
Yeah, and so it's very important that we remember that, like Karen said, what we set up for and what we do together. So it's difficult not to get drawn into the international situation, but we're the kind of charity and people and trustees where we don't shy away from having those difficult conversations, so we can look at it from all angles and make peace with that, basically, because that's what we stand for, Salaam Shalom.
Yeah, I think it's important, isn't it? I mean, if you paint too rosy a picture, people will go, well, I don't believe that. Of course, in any community or between communities, there are always tensions and problems. And as you suggested, at certain times, they're going to be stronger, those problems, than others. But it just strikes me, going back to what you were saying about, when people are working together, chopping vegetables, preparing meals, that really just sort of speaks to the humanity, or how we're the same as human beings, that essentially. So I think it's a lovely way that you've done it, really, in terms of bringing this community together over food and helping others, which is wonderful.
And food is sorry, I was just going to say, and food is really central in both of our communities, I mean, it is in many cultures, but, sitting and eating with people is definitely a very big part of our cultures.
Absolutely. And I mean, it strikes me that often, increasingly in our society, people eat alone as well, which I think is can be psychologically, challenging for people, really. So I think that's lovely. You talked about earlier on about sort of the multiple things that you do. Could we explore those a little bit? I mean, I was going to ask what the benefits are for people who go to Salaam Shalom. Perhaps we can start there and sort of work our way into the various issues that might arise.
So there are many benefits. Some people come and they come for their teas and coffee, and it's about isolation or socializing. So they've made friends, over the weeks and months, so they come and meet them there. And it's a place, where we offer, like Karen said, it's a cafe style. So there's that sort of self-respect and dignity. So we treat our guests as guests, and that's what they come for. Others will come to have that hot meal and just to be in an environment. It's that safe space, and it's being with other people like themselves. So they're not isolated thinking there's them and then their problems, and they really sort of help each other. So it's creating that space for them, like we have our spaces with like-minded people or people with similar situations. So that's one of the big benefits, say, for our guests. For volunteers, again, it's about giving back. I'm in it because it's for my consciousness, for what, I have and what, the Creator has given me. And it's my giving back to the community. So it's not just the guests who receive that support, but it's also to be with people like Karen and others who also need to know, as Jewish people, that they are loved by Muslims, that they don't need to buy into that narrative as well. So that's very important for me, to have Jewish friends.
And I've heard some amazing things from some of our volunteers. I was talking to somebody who used to volunteer at SASH, and she said, SASH is our kind of nickname, so we call ourselves SASH as well as Salaam Shalom. And she was saying that she used to love coming on Wednesdays, and said it used to top up her heart, that coming would top up her heart and would keep her going for the week, which I just thought was so lovely. And, for many people, it's a lifeline on so many levels. It's a lifeline for many volunteers, for whom coming out on a Wednesday and being with people and feeling like they're giving back and doing something important is really central to them. And for our guests, there are many people who come every week, and there are people who come and queue up for like an hour and a half before we open our doors. We'd like to have a different system where we could welcome them in and they could come and have a cup of tea, but obviously we're also preparing at that time. But
sure.
I think it's been a very important project on so many different levels, on what we're giving to people, the importance of the Jewish Muslim work together, and also for the volunteers more generally.
Yeah, and I think I think it's an interesting and often overlooked thing in terms of volunteering, that actually helping people is psychologically beneficial for the person helping. I think that process of helping somebody in need and engaging with them, because often in the UK, traditionally, you had what you call soup kitchens, and food was doled out and there was no interaction. It was like, here's your food, and people were made to feel as if they were just beneficiaries. You use the word guest, and it's a cafe environment, which I think is a huge step forward, really, from what we used to have.
It's interesting that you say that, because obviously we've got the word kitchen in our title. And I've often thought, I wish we didn't, because it is reminiscent of that. And so some people think, they're a soup kitchen, and refer to us as a soup kitchen. And I always say, no, we're not a soup kitchen. But I guess it just means that people kind of understand what it is that we do. Just going back to the volunteers and why it's important. I think everybody needs meaning and purpose in their lives. And, we have many retired people. We have students. We have one guy who came and did his Duke of Edinburgh awards with us while he was at school. He's now at university in a different part of the country. Every time he comes back for holiday, he will be there at SASH. And he just loves it. And it's so nice. We have young people, we have older people, we have people in between. And like tonight, I was down there for a little while. We have volunteers from the fire and rescue service who are coming down. And so we have different kind of groups of people who come and volunteer as well. So, it's a very special place and people love it. It's got a great atmosphere.
Just one more thing, our guests who come, sometimes they're in between jobs. Sometimes it's a holding space while they get back on their feet. And when they do get back on their feet, they do actually donate back to us. There was a lady who inherited money, and then she gave us, I think, was it a check for £100?
She gave us £100.
And there was somebody who then that randomly email you received from China. Do you remember?
No.
So it was somebody who was a regular, and then there was an email received from China. He'd now got a job and he moved there, and then he sent us a donation.
Oh,
and we also, it's great. And we also have people who kind of become volunteers, who were guests at one point. So, there is a process, and for some people, volunteering is definitely a step towards employment for them. They can come and they can learn skills and they can get references and all of those sorts of things. So, it's a very important part of it, the volunteers.
It's an amazing thing, isn't it? I mean, some people may say, it's just one, they open one night a week and it's one small place in Nottingham. But actually what you're doing is almost creating a new community, in a sense, a community of people who volunteer, but also who work there, who benefit from it. But it's very fluid, isn't it? As you say, that relationships change and become richer almost, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And just on the thing of only one night a week, actually in Nottingham, pretty much every night of the week, people can go and get a hot meal somewhere and they know exactly where they need to go. So there are people who just work their way around all the different kind of cafes and kitchens that are open. And going back to how sad that is necessary, that people, can't feed themselves. Some people do it from choice because, actually they like the company, but for many people it's an absolute necessity.
I was going to ask actually, because often, people's problems are more than just one thing. And so people may come to you initially to receive food and have a meal, but are you engaged in other issues in terms of if someone says, well, I need help with this, or do you refer on to other agencies?
Yeah, I think we've needed to be very clear about where our role stops. We're not, none of us are employed and none of us have those kind of skills, but we certainly can signpost on to other organisations.
Yeah, so we keep...
Yeah, and as you say...
So we keep that information. So when we see somebody in need or we realise actually this is a new person and clearly they're vulnerable or in need of information and support, then we do sort of get on with that and signpost them and call a few institutes.
Absolutely. And part of that, I guess, is saying to people, well, tomorrow night there's some food you can have at this place. And so that's terrific. You're working in partnership. Do you work in partnership with other religions or other organisations closely at all? Or?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, we are very clear that we are primarily a Muslim Jewish organisation, but we have really close ties with several other communities, and one of the main ones is St Barnabas Cathedral, which is the Catholic community here in Nottingham. So they've been involved with us right from the start. Many of our volunteers come from their community. They donate rice, like 10 kilos of rice every single week for our meal. And at Christmas time, they have traditionally made our roast potatoes and brought them for our big Christmas sort of festive meal that we do the last Wednesday before we break up for Christmas. And last year we had our AGM on their premises. So, they're definitely very, very involved with us. And we have partnerships with lots of different organisations. So the Pakistan Forum, for instance, in Nottingham has been very involved with us. Jewish students, Islam Society, various different student groups have been involved at different times.
And the pagan group.
Yeah. So different groups have come and gone over different periods. Yeah.
Are you aware of similar initiatives that have been inspired by you that you may not know actually, but because it is such a powerful thing symbolically. Apologies, Karen. Are you aware of any other groups at all? Or?
So as far as we know, we are the only similar kind of community cafe, exactly the same as ours. However, recently I've been supporting a group in Lincoln who are wanting to open an interfaith community cafe over there. So it will be wider than Jews and Muslims, but there will be Jews and Muslims involved, as well as some Christian organisations, and I think a Hindu temple as well. And then I was also recently talking to someone who's moved to Manchester. In fact, she was the woman who was talking about her heart being full, who wants to try and set up something in Manchester. So I think, definitely it may have some ripples.
Certainly, and I hope that those ripples extend to people who are watching this conversation now. That's part of our purpose is to try to inspire others into action, and that's why we chose your film and are delighted to have this conversation with you. Do you think that? I was going to ask. Do you think that you've changed, or the kitchen has changed the consciousness or the way people think about themselves and their relationship to others? So that could be volunteers, it could be people who are guests who are coming for a meal. Do you think there's been a shift there at all, or any changes in people?
I feel that because whenever you're in any organisation, you walk in and you can get a feel for the culture. So when you're, at Salaam Kitchen on the Wednesdays, and the conversations that we overhear, or the conversations our guests and our volunteers have with us, of like, my gosh, like this is so incredible, because they see, as is a very strong message for us, the Jewish and Muslim-led project in itself is so inspiring, and people love being part of that narrative and that conversation, but also seeing that it's so multicultural, the volunteers, the diversity in age, background, from the students to retired people. And how Karen says today we have, is it the fire service you just mentioned? Yeah, fire service. And we have groups from universities who come and help. That seeing that all these people actually just want to give back, and it's about their own behaviour, it's about hearts and minds, and that's what you feel in this project. And you also see it with the guests, where the guests see so many different people helping, and they know we're volunteers, and they know we're rushing in from our jobs and our meetings, and they are always like, they want to hug you and thank you and all of that, and they feel inspired, and then because we're not treating them like soup kitchen people, we treat them with so much respect, and it lifts them up as well, and that helps everybody, helps society. So I definitely feel that, see and hear it.
I agree, and I think we get to hear that from people. People say, you're coming here is so different from going elsewhere, we get treated like proper people here. And and we try, and one of the things is that now we've got more volunteers who are doing some of the kind of the stations of giving out the food. Then there are more people available who can sit and chat with people. That's part of our work really on the night is to sit and talk to people. Not everybody wants to talk, and that's absolutely fine. We don't push it, and we have no agenda. There is no kind of we're not trying to do anything particularly, but just to be human with someone, ask how they are, how their week's been, how's it going. I had a heart-rending conversation with a guy last week who's been homeless for 2 months, who apparently had been looking after his mum, who was terminally ill, and then after she died, he was kicked out because his name wasn't on the rent docket. And I just listened to him and talked to him, and I think it would have made a difference to him that somebody cared enough to actually just sit and chat with him for half an hour.
And that's really important. And we find that's very important, for our guests, that we do know them. They're just not a guest. We know them. So we're like, oh, where are you? We haven't seen you for a few weeks. And so those who want to share and talk, they do. And those who don't, that's fine. But they know our service is with a smile. So each person is a person to us.
Absolutely. And what I think is lovely also is that it sounds as if you've got sort of different or people of different ages who are volunteering as well, which is, I guess, for some people, they may not, you may be, or your volunteers may be the first people they speak to in that day, but also speaking to somebody from a different generation or a different age group sometimes can be wonderful as well.
And that's a really good point about might be the only person they've spoken to. Actually, for some people, it's the only person they've spoken to since last week, that they have literally not, they don't have any other connections. And so each week, we are the only connection that they have, either with each other or certainly with, some of the volunteers. So, it's a really important lifeline for many people.
And do you get any support, I don't know, from the local authority, the local council, or financial support in any other way? No. Do you think they're aware of your work?
Yeah, they are.
Are they aware of your work? Yeah.
They are. They're certainly, we've now been, we are in our 10th year, and we've, I think we have a very good reputation across the city. So I think they do, people do know about us. But as I say, there are many other organisations who are doing similar work, which is a hugely sad indictment on our society. But, we're a registered charity. So if any of your people listening want to donate to us, we're always welcome. We always welcome donations, and you can do that by our website. But that's the way that we, that we continue to operate.
We'll put a link to your website underneath this conversation. But there's no harm in you giving us your website address now.
Okay, so it's www.Salaam Shalom Kitchen, all one word, .co.uk. So, and Salaam is spelled SALAM. And Shalom.
Lovely. Yeah, I got that wrong actually the first time spelling Salam. So that's good. You spelt it out. That's terrific. Now we're a channel that is set up specifically to encourage people to make positive contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals, and oftentimes people we speak to may not know on these podcasts, may not know, even heard of the Sustainable Development Goals. Were you aware of them just out of interest before we contacted you?
Aware of what, sorry?
The Sustainable Development Goals. No, well, no. I mean, this is the reason for our channel. Yeah, I mean, it's Sustainable Development Goals are... they're the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and a set of 17 goals that are aimed at making the world a better place to live. So they include many different things, and one of them, the very important one, is I think the main one, perhaps, that Salaam Shalom Kitchen addresses, which is zero hunger. So that's Sustainable Development Goal number 2. But often we find, and I think this is, for us, is the valuable thing about the Sustainable Development Goals, is that it recognises that life is complex, that people's problems aren't just necessarily one thing. It can be a series of things. And I was looking at your film, and it struck me that you've actually, Salaam Shalom Kitchen, without you knowing it, hits quite a few of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we've got Zero Hunger, which is SDG 2. Also got SDG 1, which is similar, which is no poverty. But of course, poverty can arise not just through hunger, but also loneliness, etc., etc. SDG 3, good health and well-being. I think, we've talked about the psychological benefits as well as the physical benefits that Salaam Shalom Kitchen provides to people. There's SDG 10, which is reduced inequalities. And, as you were saying earlier on in Nottingham, as in many towns, if every town in the UK at the moment, we live in an unequal society, and the work you're doing is directly contributing to trying to level that a little bit. SDG 11 is sustainable cities and communities, and I think, your work really does address that squarely. Nottingham is a big city, and we talked about you creating a new community. Really, I mean, you come from two communities, but you're creating a new one of guests and volunteers who now know each other. 16, and I think this is really important, is peace, justice, and strong institutions. And I think peace is obviously a huge part of the message that comes to me anyway from your work, and one of the main reasons why Salaam Shalom Kitchen was set up, to have peace within those communities and other communities. And finally, SDG 17, partnership for the goals. You work in partnership with other people, two communities working in partnership together, and you've described other communities like the Catholic Church or Cathedral that helps out as well. So congratulations. you hit, it's remarkable how rich your work is, whereas people would probably think, well, it's it's a kitchen that serves food, but it's much more than that. Is there anything that we've left out that you want to add, perhaps?
Yeah, well, there is. I mean, it's interesting because when I hear the word sustainable, I think about eco-sustainability. And that's certainly something that we try to do as much as possible, because most of our food is supermarket surplus. So we have, that's how we provide all our meals. We have a group of people who go and collect stuff from Fair Share. So we get 80 kilograms of supermarket surplus from them each week. And then also all the local supermarkets give us stuff, and it can be very random. I mean, tonight they had 10 enormous bagfuls of bread, and fruit and vegetables and all kinds of stuff. And that's what we give away. We give away a bag full of groceries each week, as well as the hot food. I don't know if I mentioned that properly. And we also, the takeaway containers and the bags that we use, we try to use as sustainable ones as possible. So we use as much paper and cardboard as we can. And the plastic is, we don't have single-use plastic. And so we try and be as sustainable as we can, really.
That's fantastic. So congratulations, you've hit another one, which is SDG 13, climate action. So that's fantastic.
I wondered if it was on there.
I beg your pardon, but you're absolutely right. I mean, often people think of sustainable in terms of ecology and environment and stuff, but actually to live sustainably on this planet requires not just that. It requires a whole peace, justice, and a more equal society, really. So, well, thank you. It's been fascinating, and we're so pleased that you came on. People can obviously contact you through the website if they want to volunteer or they want to donate.
Absolutely. Or if they want to set up their own kitchen, I'm happy to have a chat with them. The one piece of advice that I give to everybody is start small. You don't have to start on the sort of level that we've we've developed. When we started, we were very small. So that would be, don't think you have to take on the whole lot.
Absolutely. I think that's valuable advice, and thank you for offering that. I'm sure people will contact you. Well, I hope they do anyway. And, often that learning is part of the partnership, that we talked about earlier, SDG 17, partnership for the goals. So that's terrific. Well, Karen and Ferzana, thank you so much for sharing your evening with us on a cold November evening. And we wish you all the best. We wish Salaam Shalom Kitchen all the best. And, inevitably, unfortunately, at the moment, I guess your services will be needed more and more. You're playing such a valuable role in Nottingham, and we thank you for it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.